You're listening to the Jam Price Show, all about movies. And today, my guest is director Kimani Ray Smith. And we're going to be talking about his exciting new movie entitled The Painter. Welcome to the show, Kimani.
Thank you for having me, Jan. It's a
Oh, it's
pleasure.
my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. You took us on quite the journey on this movie, for sure. And I don't want to give anything away because
Yeah,
yeah, you just
can't.
give anything away. You just have to, everybody will just have to seek it out before we even start talking about it, because they have to know what we're talking about for sure.
Absolutely.
So the audience does know what we're talking about. Kamani, why don't you give a brief synopsis of what The Painter is all about?
The Painter, to me, in my words, is an action-packed story about a dysfunctional family, a highly dysfunctional family.
Good way to put it.
Uh, yeah, it's a drama sprinkled with some action. Yeah, it's about a kind of ex-CIA hitman assassin who has a special ability, a gift that was given to him. Not given to him, but it happened to him, and when he was younger, and he has this kind of hyper acute sense of hearing, which kind of aids him in his daily life of a hitman. And then a tragic accident happens, and he quits the business, and we kind of pick him up 17 years later. And yeah, I don't know how to
I think that's good. That
not
was a good,
yeah
very good, excellent,
yeah
And there we begin.
yeah, and there we begin. Yeah.
You've got a great cast. Charlie Weber, who was in How to Get Away with Murder, um,
Hmm.
is wonderful in this film. He really is. Is this his first real lead in a movie, or has he been in
You
other?
know, I don't know. I know he's been in so much, but yeah, this could be like one of the first. Um, I don't know for sure though. I can't say. But yeah, to me, he is a leading man like that.
Yes,
He's got all the characteristics of a leading man. Good
yes.
looking guy, beautiful eyes. His voice is like silk. He's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. He really is. And he does you know, when you can't take your eyes off an actor, that's when you
Mhm.
know they've got it.
The it factor.
The it factor. And he's one of
Absolutely.
them. He's really, really good in this film, and you can't
Mm.
take your eyes off of him. He's really, really
Yeah.
good. And he's standing up toe to toe with the incomparable Jon Voight, who
Yes.
is, always interesting to watch on the screen. Always, always, always.
Mhm.
And he doesn't disappoint in this role
No.
at all. And so let's talk about the casting, because let's just talk about the casting. How did
Okay.
you were obviously involved in the casting process.
Mm.
How did you end up choosing Charlie Weber? And then we'll talk about how did Jon Voight get
Wait, get
attracted to this
involved?
project.
Okay. This whole kind of project came together because of the executive producer, Stephen Paul. I don't know if you're familiar with him, uh, his company. And he kind of had this. I was working as a stunt coordinator. I come from a stunt kind of background.
Mhm.
And I was working for him on a few of his films as a stunt coordinator. And he came to me one day and just said, "Hey, I have this idea and I'd like you to direct it." And I was just like, "What? Oh, okay, sure, let's go." So he pitched me the idea of The Painter and just loved it. And we took like a year to kind of develop it, got writer on board, Brian. And yeah, and then like a year later we were shooting it. So
Oh, that's
it,
fast.
yeah, it was super fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so, because this is, like I said, his idea and his baby, he had a lot to do with the casting. Like I was there, I put my input in, but it was him pulling, he's an old kind of Hollywood, he's been there for years, veteran, and he knows a lot of people. So it's just him pulling strings and getting the right people. And we had great casting director, Fern Champion. She was amazing. So she brought forth some great actors and put together a great cast.
Yes, she did. Definitely.
Yeah.
So is it because of the producer that Jon Voight got involved with this? I mean, I know
Yeah,
they have a long history together, perhaps maybe both being in the business for a long time.
yeah, I think they're actually like I think he's actually John's manager. I
Oh,
think if I recall, yeah, I think it's his manager, and they have a business together. They're business partners as well. So I think, and they've just been friends for eons. So yeah, I just like he's in like 90% of Steven's movies, John. So
oh,
I think it was just like just rolled him over. It's just like, you want to be a part of this? Yep. And I was like, thank you.
yes.
Well, he's so legendary, man. Like
Yes, he is.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, being 80 plus, this guy is amazing. Like he's such an artist. He just loves the artistry of filmmaking and acting. Like he would go out, he would get the script before, he would break it all down, he'd call me up, he would be giving me ideas, he'd get together with the cast on his own time, either on the phone or in person, and go through the scenes with them and like rework it, and just a legend, and such a great man. And he like, and strong. Like I can't believe how strong he is for 80 plus years. He is a strong man. He was throwing me around, like showing me some fight moves and tossing me around like I was a rag doll. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. It shocked me.
You're kidding. Wow, that
No,
is
not at
amazing.
all. Oh
That
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah,
Since you are, yeah, since that's what you've done for a living is be,
totally.
a stuntman for years
Absolutely.
prior
Yeah,
to directing this. That's pretty
yeah.
amazing. It's great to see so many of our legendary actors continuing their careers when they're
Hmm.
in their 80s and 90s. I mean,
Absolutely.
Rita Moreno is still acting and she's 92 and she looks amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. I met her at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival last year. She sat in front of me, and then the next night we walked out together. That's
Oh man,
really
that's so
quite nice,
cool. Yeah, that's
for her
great.
film that was premiering at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. But she's absolutely amazing in person. I
Oh,
mean, truly stunning. So it's great that these wonderful actors have kept somehow their longevity and their
yeah.
energy and are able to continue
I
to
think it's
not
it's
only act, but
passion.
to act really well.
Yeah. And
Continue
I
to
think
do
it's their
that.
passion, right? They never get bitter. They never get, of course you have your ups and downs in any kind of industry, but once you have that drive and that passion, like, and just that work ethic, nothing beats it. It's like you just feel so blessed being there and happy, and it continues, if you keep that alive, just keep that energy going forward.
I agree. I mean, I
I
think
hope hopefully we all get that, right?
yes,
Like,
I was going to say, I think
yeah,
that's true for everybody, on the planet. If you're not passionate about what you do, then,
absolutely.
life loses a little bit of its joy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, this before I started this was my passion project. This is what I
Hmm.
call it, my passion project, because it's what I'm passionate about, talking about movies and how they
Yeah,
get made and the background of them and giving a voice to independent and documentary filmmakers
it's
and
amazing.
anybody who has anything to do with the film industry, anybody from behind the scenes. I've interviewed all kinds of interesting people, editors,
Yeah,
IMAX camera
yeah,
man who does
Tex.
everything for Chris Nolan, and just
Yeah,
really
yeah,
fascinating people so it keeps me
yeah.
going too, to have that many
There's
interesting.
such a wide range of different positions in the film business, and yeah,
Yes.
I'm glad that you guys give them a voice, like people like you. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's get back to this movie. So
Yeah.
you put it together in such a short period of time. Did you film
Mhm.
during the pandemic, after the pandemic? When did so many people were still talking about
Uh,
filming
yeah,
during that time period?
this was during the pandemic, kind of closer to the tail end. We completed filming the end of 2022.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's just kind of tailing off. It was still, all the COVID precautions and masking and distancing and all that. So it was a little bit challenging. Um, and then we shot this film in Vancouver, and we got like on our first day was a record snowfall, which was
Kidding.
super challenging.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like the last thing you would expect, because it doesn't snow that often in Vancouver. And yeah, it just dumped down, and Yeah, it was crazy, but it was kind of like that blessing in disguise because it gave so much production value to the project.
I
You
was
know what
going
I
to say
mean?
that because you
Yeah,
utilized it very well.
yeah, absolutely. You had to. Yeah, you had to embrace it. Yeah, no. I think it was the main thing was like on that first night, it was just getting crew and cast home safe because it was, you know, we worked until like I think 1 in the morning or 1 or 3, and it was just getting people home because it was so miserable out and
Mm.
like 3 feet of snow and like driving conditions were horrendous. Yeah,
Wow.
so
Wow.
yeah,
Should put cots up and have everybody sleep in.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Some blankets.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we weren't at a studio; we were on location, so it was
Oh,
like, yeah, yeah,
makes it even
yeah.
more difficult then.
Oh, it was,
Sure.
yeah, it was
Well,
challenging.
I always like to ask what was the most difficult part of filming, but you just told me.
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
that
that was
was
very challenging.
probably the most.
But highly like we embraced it. Like it brought so much. I feel just this sleepy, snowy town. You know, it really gave to it. Um, but I think you know, challenging. I think the most challenging, besides the weather aspect of it and the COVID aspect of it, I think was you know, schedules. You know what I mean? Like with this kind of the amount of work that we had to do in short amount of time is just you know getting your days and you know making sure you give enough time for the certain things and how to sacrifice for other things you know just to keep the ball moving keep the film going you know
Mhm.
I think that was the challenge but I love challenges you know I think this business is all about problem solving you know I think that's the
Yeah.
fun aspect of it so
And I think that's the director's job,
yeah yeah
isn't it?
producers and the director yeah
Yeah.
absolutely it's
To,
problem solving.
yeah, definitely do that. Now, how did you end up becoming a stunt man, a stunt coordinator? You've worked in the industry for a long time doing that.
Long time, yeah, 30 years. I think how I got into it, you know, was I had like a crush, a boyhood crush on Lee Majors of The Fall Guy.
Uh-huh.
And when I found, and I was always kind of like a daredevil kid, you know, doing, you know, skateboarding, snowboarding, mountain bike, BMX kind of kid and dancing. I was really heavily into the breakdancing scene and stuff growing up and gymnastics, martial arts. So I was always kind of doing that. But when I saw the Fall Guy and saw this character, Lee Majors' character, and I was like, what? That's an actual profession? Like to be a professional stuntman? Like what? And so that kind of opened my eyes. Like, oh, there's like an industry. Like all the things I used to watch is like, oh yeah, somebody had to make that. You know, when you're younger, you just think, oh, they're just giving me this information and I'm just watching it and being entertained. But there's actually an industry behind it that puts forward. So it kind of made me open my eyes and be like, oh, there's a career here. And so that kind of sparked me to get into it. So I started doing like, you know, commercials, like a lot of breakdancing commercials. And then I saw in the newspaper there was a film school that had this kind of stunt training program. I was like, well, there you go. So I just kind of picked up, left home, moved to a different city to go to this
Where were you
school.
living when you saw that?
I was living in a place called Victoria. It's in Canada. It's an island off of Vancouver.
Uh-huh. Yes,
Yeah,
I've been there
and
to
yeah,
that
you've been there,
island.
yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
have.
yeah. It's beautiful there.
Beautiful,
Yeah,
gorgeous.
my mom and my brother still lives there. Yeah, I moved over to Vancouver and took this program. It was like a 3-month program, and then it just kind of gave me the insight that I needed, and I just started, you know, pursuing, just pounding the cement, you know, like the pavement, just going for it, and did a lot of background work. So that was kind of like my film school. Like
Mhm.
once I got on set and I did tons of background work, and I just would sit there and watch everyone's position and be like, okay, and their lingo and their dialogue and who's doing what, and it just kind of that was my film school. It's just experience being there, and it was also my fridge because at that time we didn't have any money. So you're working and you're taking from craft services to fill up your fridge.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little harder nowadays, but yeah, back then, you know, what I mean, we'd always be taking like, you know, instant noodles home and cup of soups and stuff like that so we could eat. But anyways, yeah, it was that kind of got me into it. And then I after the school and being on set, and then I just pester the stunt coordinators and kind of just worked my way up, just like literally pounding the pavement, like,
Wow.
like just work my way up. And then
And
yeah,
it's
eventually,
interesting, you knew what you wanted to do. I mean, just by
yeah,
watching that you knew that that was a path that you really wanted to
yeah.
do. But you did go to the school for 3 months?
I did. I
You
went to the
did.
school for 3 months, got like introductions and who's who in the business kind of thing. They kind of give you how to make a resume, how to get headshots, the whole kind of introduction
Oh, you're
basics.
freezing up.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
hopefully you unfreeze.
I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now
Yeah.
you're right.
Okay. Yeah, no, it basically gave me a foundation of like how to make a resume, headshots, who's who in the town, who to hit up phone call, how to get on set, kind of things like that. I already had kind of the skill and talent, like because I did a lot of gymnastics and like I said, breakdancing and martial arts and extreme sports and stuff. So it was just kind of more of how to get in there and how to get on set. And so once I got on set, and I always knew like I wanted to be a filmmaker, not necessarily a stunt person. Like I always wanted to be a director. I just how do I get there?
Right, right.
Yeah, how do I get there? So it's and that was a path. I knew my body. I knew my skill set, and so I just kind of focused on that to give me the stepping stones to get me on my path and my goal to sit in the chair of a director, like on the painter.
Yeah, yeah. And so Stephen Paul saw your
Hmm.
potential,
Yeah,
obviously, as a director via the work you had done for him through the years. You're right. You never know what doors are going to be open and how
you
they're going
never
to get
know.
open. And here you are. So
Yep.
yeah, let's go back to the painter. Obviously, your skill set as a stunt person,
Hmm.
I should say stunt man, but stunt person,
Stunt person. Yep.
yeah, really helped.
Performer. Stunt performer.
A stunt
Yeah.
performer, better word to
Yeah.
say. Yeah, a stunt
Yeah.
performer really helped you a lot with this film because there's a lots of different stunts throughout this film.
Hmm.
Did you actually do any of the stunts in this film, or were you just having other people do the stunts?
Yeah, I leave that now I'm the kind of guy that I have a job. I don't need to take someone else's job. You know what I mean? So I got this job, and it's filmmaking is a team effort. You know what I mean? So you know I didn't want to perform. I wanted to stay in that chair and focus on directing, which is a challenge in itself. You have every department in your head, like having to give answers, having to make choices, having to problem solve. So it's like, stunts, yeah, it got me to where I am, but I left that up to the professionals. How about that?
And let them do what they do now.
That's right. That's right.
So there's lots of twists and turns in this film and lots of unique storylines, let's put it that
Mhm.
way. In this movie, it sounded like you had a hand a little bit in writing this. Is that correct? Were you involved?
Just a little, like just polishing some stuff. Like I said, a lot of this was the brainchild of Stephen Paul. So, and he worked with the writer, Brian. So yeah, a little bit, but yeah, there was a lot of twists and turns, and that's what I would say to your viewers or your listeners is that this is kind of like the jumping off point, this film, to a bigger world. I think it's setting up for a bigger world, the world of the internship, the interns, these superhero type characters, black ops, the hidden hand, type espionage. So I think it's a building piece. So yeah, there's a lot crammed into this film, a lot of twists and turns and whodunits and who's responsible. Uh, that hopefully by the end of it you want more, and it sparks off into we can explain a little bit more in another film or another couple films.
And yes, you do want more. No
Mhm.
question about that. And you're right. It does leave you, well, wanting more, but also believing that this would be a starting point. So is there another film in the works?
There's rumblings. There's rumblings. I think it's always like, how does this do? I mean, everyone's, how is this going to do? How does it received? And then we'll go from there. So, but there are rumblings. So hopefully, fingers
That's
crossed.
it's good. That's good. So uh, the writer, Stephen came up with the idea, the concept, and then
Mhm.
worked with the writer. Do you have any idea what prompted this kind of a story? Because it is rather unique. I mean, there's a lot
It
of
is.
to it, and it's very unique.
Mhm. Um, I think if I recall, I think it was trying to blend kind of that CIA with a superhero, or like kind of that American hero with a super kind of hero genre. It was like trying to blend it. Like how do you come up with this? But of course, can't make them too superhero because you'll never contend with Marvel or DC, right? Like these big kind of IPs. So it was kind of keep it grounded and kind of based in reality, but just have a little heightened, a little like if you had one sense that was a little bit heightened,
Mhm.
how would your life change, or how could you use that as a tool? And then when the government or the secret ops gets a hold of that, how do they exploit it? You know, so it's kind of I think he wanted to really to marry those two concepts, I mean, have that high action espionage, black ops with a superhero kind of concept and theme. And Brian Buccellato is a comic book writer. Like he works a lot for the DC. He does a lot of writing for the Flash and these other big comic books. So yeah, it was kind of like a match made in heaven.
It is, but I didn't even think about that. So that's kind of an interesting, because you're right. It's grounded more in reality. And,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's even though there are some superhuman traits that these characters have or will be
Mhm.
having and developing as time goes on too. So that makes it interesting in its own way, because it does
Yeah,
more, it's just grounded. It's not like, watching a comic book, for sure, for sure. But
that's
it's
right.
very action packed, and it keeps you totally there the whole time, going, okay, what's going to happen next in this scene?
Yeah.
For you? Okay, we'll go back to Jon Voight again, but how was it for you this is your first film, correct? Your first feature? You've done
No,
other things?
I've done another feature in like 2010, 2011,
Okay, a
which was
while
a
ago.
complete, yeah, it was a complete indie. We had like $200,000 and tried to make this horror film. I mean, but yeah, it was called The Evil Feed. So yeah, this is kind of like the second attempt at it in the feature world. Done
All right,
like
and
a
it's
lot of,
been a long time in
yeah,
between.
and
So,
I've done a lot of TV and stuff beyond
right,
that.
oh
Yeah,
no,
in
I know you've
between.
done a lot of things in between
Yeah.
into there. But my question is, was it intimidating working with, Academy Award winning actor Jon Voight for,
Uh,
this is a big feature.
absolutely. Absolutely. But it also was kind of a godsend because he's a pro. You don't have to worry about him. Like, he's always hitting his lines. He's nailing it every time. The guy's presence on the screen is it's just mesmerizing. So, it was a blessing. But again, I met John prior to that as the stunt coordinator when I was working on these other Stephen Paul films. So we kind of had like a little bit of a rapport and a shorthand. So it kind of worked. So when I knew that he was on board, it was like, oh, this is great. This is perfect.
Great. It's great.
Mhm.
Who inspires you as a director? Who do you look up to? Who do you want to be, your style to be like, perhaps, or just that they have
Well,
influenced you throughout your
yeah,
career?
I really I enjoy Christopher Nolan's his films of like
Yeah.
it's just great. I love his way of telling stories. And I also love the fun storytelling of Tarantino. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like where I kind of got into thinking about directing a little bit more, was in the Tarantino age, you know what I mean? And he had such just a new way of telling stories and you know, filmmaking process. So yeah, I'd love to somehow be like those guys one day.
You're on your way, Kimani. You're on your
Yeah,
way.
thank
Hey,
you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Where can people see The Painter?
I think the Painter right now is streaming on Paramount Plus, I think.
Paramount Plus.
So
Okay.
yeah, I think we're up there now. I think we went live last week. So yeah,
Great. Good. So everybody seek out The Painter on Paramount Plus. And I think it's on VOD, digital,
yeah,
on VOD too. So people can
that's right.
find it that way too if they don't. Well, if you don't have Paramount Plus, you should subscribe to Paramount Plus for
Absolutely.
sure. So that's number one. But if
Mhm.
not, you can find it digitally. Well, welcome. Much success with The Painter. I look forward to the next
Yeah,
film
me too.
and having you back on the show to talk about that, Kimani. Much success to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan.
You
Pleasure.